Hey, what's up, everyone? John Manson with a Sea of Red. Been a few weeks since I've been on here. Been enjoying the summer and some family time, and having a little bit of a break and some downtime before we ramp this thing back up with the start of college football season and the college athletic season. And that's what we've done. Liberty training camp is upon us. The Flames opened training camp this past Wednesday, and under fourth year head coach Jamie Chadwell now coming into the 2026 season, and just wanted to give an update on the Flames, and where things stands for Liberty football currently at the start of the training camp as we get into it and as things go a little bit further. Also wanted to provide an update for those of you that follow us at A Sea of Red on Twitter, X. Obviously we had some issues. The account got hacked. We were able to block it from them continuing to use it, the hackers, whoever they may be. And now we're locked out of it, unfortunately, as well, too. Working with Twitter support, which they don't have the greatest customer support, can't get answers in a prompt time. So currently locked out of that, but hopefully we'll have that back sooner than later. In the meanwhile, make sure you're following my personal Twitter account at JC Manson. If you're not already, I'm posting everything on there like I was on A Sea of Red prior, and hopefully this will be a short-term little blip, but you can follow us there. Sea of Red's also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, all those things. And obviously you can always go to seaofred.com. We post all of our content there as well too. So you can check that each and every day. We're got fresh content every day on the website, as well as, and certainly throughout the season. Now that the season's going on, but year round, we're providing an update there. So make sure you're checking all those channels. And it's just a reminder too that social media and these social media companies, they're kind of interesting. So you can't always rely on them to always provide the content you want to see, even if you're following somebody like A Sea of Red. So make sure you're able to interact with us if you enjoy our content, which I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you do. So make sure you're following us and interacting with us on multiple platforms, so you're not relying on one. And obviously the most important one is seaofred.com. But like I said, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter as well too. So with that having been said, let's talk Liberty football training camp. Again, Liberty's 3 practices in now as we're recording. Technically their 3rd practice going on at this moment. There's a lot of things we could talk about as you talk about the Flames coming out of that 4-8 year in 2025. Obviously a very underwhelming, disappointing season. I mean, there's a lot of adjectives you could use to describe it. The bottom line is it just was not good enough. It does not live up to Liberty football standards, and that's something that must be improved upon this season. And I think, we can talk about why the season went the way it did last year. And I've kind of talked about that a little bit. As I've gotten further and further away from the season and had more and more time to digest it, I really think a lot of it had to do, and I'm not saying this is 100% the reason why Liberty's 4-8. There was other reasons. I think one of the reasons why Liberty was not performing as well as it could have, and remember, Flames' last 4 games were all 1-score or overtime games. So the record could have easily been 8-4 or 6-6. Again, not saying that that's good enough or up to Liberty football standards, but it could have been different in spite of everything that went on. But I think one of the biggest things that affected the team, and we'll learn if this is true this coming season when we get into 2026 and have this season in our rear view, is Coach Chadwell's health. He talked about it more in recent interviews if you listen to him, and most notably at Conference USA Media Days in July. where he talked about how he was undergoing blood work for something that was going on with him dating back to the 2024 season, didn't know what was wrong. And I had heard about some health issues. I don't know if I would even phrase it to that extent at the end, towards the end of the 2024 season. But I thought it was just like a one-off type thing, wasn't that big of a deal. But it seems like that was kind of the beginning of his health struggles, that he didn't officially learn what the diagnosis was until last summer. So just over a year ago now, going into the season. And I had heard through various sources that there was a potential that he was going to sit out the 2025 season as far as like take a leave of absence type thing. But obviously he did not do that. But he found out the diagnosis, but then realized, that after speaking with doctors and things, that they would wait until January to have an operation on this medical issue, treatable but serious medical condition, I believe is the phrase that terminology that Liberty used. Trying to stay, true to those comments. But anyways, so having that hanging over you, that those thoughts lingering throughout your mind throughout the season has to affect you, right? It would affect any of us. It has to affect you daily, obviously affect your job. And in college football, Division I college football, such a competitive sport, and you're competing against others that are competing at a high level, that have had some level of success to get to this level. It's a fine line between success and failure, between wins and losses. And I pointed out those 4 games where Liberty lost by such close margin. So again, I think that had a large part to do with it. I'm not making excuses for it, certainly. I'm just trying to objectively as possible, kind of provide my thoughts on what happened last year. Now, if Liberty comes out and goes 4-8 again this year, I don't think you can say that, because Coach Chadwell is saying that this is all behind him. He knows what the diagnosis is, has had it taken care of, and he's moving forward. So I think if Liberty goes out and lays an egg this season, then that leads to more questions. And that was just one of the things. I think obviously quarterback play was another issue. You can't have your quarterback throw more interceptions than touchdowns. That's obviously not a recipe for success. There's also some inconsistency on the defensive side of the ball, particularly in the run game, the defensive line, being able to stop the run consistently, and also pass rush, which has been an ongoing concern. Also some team discipline type issues with penalties, unsportsmanlike penalties at opportune times, turnovers on offense as well too. So I think a lot of that could be tied back to some of those health struggles Coach Chadwell had. Again, we'll wait and see how that plays out this season. Those are just kind of some of my thoughts right now as we're talking in early August, as Liberty's just getting ready for training camp. So quarterback battle, wanted to touch on that briefly as well too. Obviously Liberty's got 5 quarterbacks in competition in camp, in that room, fighting for that job. I think, Coach Chadwell talked about how once you get to practice 9, which is the team's first scrimmage, which is on August 15th, I believe, if that's a Saturday. Yes, it is. So it's August 15th. Then that's when he wants to narrow it down to his top 2 quarterbacks. And again, I think the coaching staff, Coach Chadwell, probably already has a good idea who those 2 would be, or maybe there's 3 of them, for example, that they think are right in that competition. And then, they'll narrow it down to those 2, and they probably have a pretty good idea of who they think will end up being the starter as well too. And as you kind of go through the names in this room, and again, I think my opinion is that Deshaun Purdy will end up being the starter unless something goes wrong throughout training camp. That's just from watching spring ball, watching practice a little bit earlier this week on Wednesday, talking to people, talking to coaches, hearing coaches talking in press conferences, things like that. That's my assumption, reading their bios and all that stuff too. I kind of think that, Purdy, just from a raw athletic perspective, raw talent perspective, his talent kind of jumps off the field, off the page, if you will, when you watch him in practice. I mean, he's got the body of a high-level quarterback, just his physique and his build and his size. He can make the throws. Like, he's got a strong arm. He can throw the ball downfield, which I think is something Liberty lacked last season. Now, there are questions with Purdy as well, too. I do think his ceiling is probably higher than most of the other quarterbacks on the roster, at least for this season. That could change with some of the younger guys in future years. But there are some questions, obviously, with Purdy, too, as well, right? Like, his 50% completion percentage over his first 2 seasons, both at Charlotte and then at Wake Forest last year, leaves room for concern. And you have to pause and take a step back and, like, why were those numbers what they were? Is he better than that? And again, that's not something that I've been able to see through practice. I just don't have enough evidence for that or enough data for that. You know, I don't know if the coaching staff has enough. They have obviously got more than I have currently, but is that something that you might not figure out until you get into the season? So, I think that's one thing you have to be concerned about. Another thing is his lack of rushing yards. Obviously, Liberty under Coach Chadwell likes to utilize a quarterback that has at least the ability to run. Doesn't have to be a Caden Salter or Malik Willis even where they rush for 1,000 yards in a season, but at least have the ability to run, have the threat of run. I think Purdy, again, just from looking at him as an athlete from a physical perspective, you would think he would be able to have some wheels and be able to escape the pocket and make some plays with his legs. Maybe he didn't have those opportunities at his previous stops. So again, that's something that I don't know how much of that you really get to see necessarily in camp because quarterbacks are non-contact throughout the majority of camp. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye on. But I do think Purdy is probably the guy who, if I had to pick today, I think that's who would be the starting quarterback. Ethan Vasco, obviously the returner from last year. I know there's a lot of, I guess it's fair to say, toxicity around him, around the Liberty fan base. If you talk about Ethan Vasco, if you came out and said Ethan Vasco is going to be the starter, the comment section would be crazy. And understandably so. I get the frustrations with his play last year. But you also have to realize this is a guy that's got multiple years of starting experience under his belt at an FBS level, which is something you're always looking for. And then a guy that knows the system, like he's been in the system for the last year. So I do think now, obviously he was hurt, missed spring practice, but I do think Vasco is going to be part of this conversation for this quarterback battle. I don't know if he'll be the starter. I don't think he will be. I wouldn't be surprised if he's QB2. Just from the knowledge I have right now. And I'll be honest with you, if it comes out and says, here in a couple of weeks that, Purdy and Vasco are the top 2 that the Flames are focusing on, I would not be shocked. I would not be surprised if that's what's happening. And if I was a Liberty fan, and me personally, I wouldn't take that as bad news, even if you don't want Vasco to be your starting quarterback. Because I think if Vasco as a backup quarterback for the Flames, that's a very good backup quarterback. One of the best backup quarterbacks, I'd argue, certainly in Conference USA, and maybe a lot of the group of 6. A guy that started multiple years at multiple G6 schools from Coastal and Liberty, a guy that's been in your system, knows your system, that if you were to need another quarterback in a pinch, you could certainly do worse than an Ethan Vasco. He probably, you could argue, would be one of the more talented, accomplished backup quarterbacks in Liberty football history. Take that for what it's worth. So I do think Vasco will be a factor in this race. Again, I'm not saying he's going to win the job. I don't think he will win the job, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's a top 2. Jalen Henderson, the transfer from Texas A&M and most recently West Virginia, a guy that Liberty looked at a year ago. He's a lefty, so watching him practice, unorthodox, right? Just like on the basketball court, if you see a lefty shooter, it just looks different, feels different. But he's a guy that certainly has the ability with his legs. He was even utilized in some capacity as a type of wildcat quarterback for West Virginia last year. So he has that ability at the minimum. So even if he were to win this quarterback job, which I don't think he will, but he could, I think, you would feel really good about Liberty's option attack, Liberty's ability to run the ball, not just with this running back group, but also with a quarterback in a Jalen Henderson. I also wouldn't be shocked if he's a guy that has packages for him, depending on who is a starting quarterback, that, Liberty would be comfortable rolling out Henderson in a pinch. He also could make a push for the starting job. Wouldn't be shocked at all. Other two quarterbacks, I think, are probably a little bit more of a long shot to win the job. Doesn't mean they won't. I would be surprised if either one of the other two, and I'm talking about Ethan Houck and Jakin Davis, freshman and second year, which we're getting, by the way, off topic. We're getting away from red shirts. So it's now, you're a freshman, you're a sophomore, junior, senior, and you're a fifth year as we get into this, you get 5 years to play. So it doesn't really matter if you redshirt or not. It doesn't matter. But so you can't really call Houck a redshirt freshman. He's a sophomore. Anyways, that's an aside. But yeah, I think both of them would be more of a long shot to win the job. I would be surprised if either one of them was named into the top two. But it could happen. Houck, again, we saw what he could do a little bit last year as a true freshman. Was really utilized more in run plays than in pass plays. Didn't have any success passing. Did have some success running the ball. Again, highly rated, highly touted recruit coming out of high school. The highest rated recruit Liberty has ever signed out of high school at the quarterback position. So he's a guy that's got some ability, got some talent. Again, he might be a year or so away. And again, I understand saying that with the transfer portal, you can't sit around and wait for these guys to develop anymore. Like, they want to play immediately. And if not, they want to transfer. But that's just my opinion and the way I see things. And I could be wrong, obviously. But again, just sharing what I think currently. Davis, again, a true freshman, guy who is, again, highly rated, highly recruited, highly regarded coming out of high school. The Liberty coaching staff, Coach Chadwell, knows his family personally, has known Jakin since he was a kid. So I do think, you heard the staff, he was here for the spring. The staff spoke very highly of him during spring ball. I do think Davis has a lot of potential. He could potentially be the Liberty quarterback of the future. When is that future? Who knows? I mean, it's year by year with all of these guys at this point in time. I mean, could that be 2026? It would be really surprising. He's got to be the long shot. I mean, just, even Houck has some level of experience and he's been in the system for a year. So he's just got to think it's going to be really hard for Davis to surpass all four of the aforementioned guys. Not saying he can't do it. He can. But it would be a surprise if he did. So, but I do think Davis is a guy that could end up, like I said, being the quarterback of the future. And that future could be as soon as 2027. You never know nowadays in college athletics. So that's kind of my take on a quarterback battle. And again, just remember, if Coach Chadwell, I wouldn't be shocked if even after the 15th he refuses to name the top two. I also wouldn't be shocked if he refuses to name the starting quarterback until game week, if not even game day. That opener September 5th at James Madison. And honestly, I wouldn't blame him. It makes no sense. Like, you get nothing out of naming a starting quarterback before game day. I mean, there's really no reason to. So even if that ends up happening here in coming weeks, which I kind of expect it to happen, doesn't necessarily mean we need to sound the alarm bells, because again, that's just coach speak, coach play. Like, we see it all the time. We see it every year. You can remember Hugh Freeze did it when he was here at Liberty with Malik Willis back when he was battling Chris Ferguson. How much of a true battle was that really in camp? They said they did not name the starting quarterback until that week, late into the week. So Do we believe that that really happened? I mean, come on. Malik is now making a ton of money in the NFL on his second contract, and the starter for the Dolphins this season. And, like, we really want to believe that. So, again, you have to take what coaches say in these battles in training camp with a grain of salt. So just because Liberty doesn't, if they don't come out and name a starter or even come out and name the top two, doesn't mean that we need to sound all the alarm bells, because it could just be coach speak and coaches trying to downplay that information. So just some thought there. Couple other things wanted to get to before we wrap up. First of all, just wanted to remind everyone, I don't do this frequently, but if you're not a Sea Red Club member, would highly encourage you to consider that. You can go to SeaRed.com, search club. There's also a tab at the top that you can click on to take you to the club. A lot of information that we put out there, kind of insider type of information. And again, you joining just further helps support a Sea Red and everything we do, and helping us to provide great coverage for the Flames. But one of the things on the club I wanted to highlight was we put out some practice reports and things. If you enjoy that thing, some inside information from what we see with our own eyes as part of that practice. Sometimes there's depth chart type battles, like what we're seeing is included there. Injury reports sometimes, who's participating, who's not participating, sometimes goes into those reports, and other things, other inside information or takeaways we have from practice. Also, the rumor mill. If you're not familiar with it, go out and check the Sea Red Club rumor mill. Sometimes that's where we've been doing for multiple years. Go out there and post rumors that we hear, information that we don't have the go-ahead necessarily to report publicly, so we post it on the rumor mill. And sometimes it's stuff that we've heard from an anonymous source, and sometimes it's stuff that we know is true, we just can't report it for whatever reason. So be sure, if you're a club member, to go out and check out the rumor mill. We post injury updates, scheduling information, sometimes recruiting information when that season rolls around. So it should be a really scheduling information, if I didn't say that already. A lot of stuff out there that we put. Sometimes that stuff never gets reported, but it is stuff that is in fact true. One of the things that I did post on there this week, and I'll go ahead and report it here just to give you a little taste for some of the stuff we put out there. When I heard Coach Chadwell talk in his Wednesday press conference about an injury being suffered during practice on day one on Wednesday, and it didn't look good, we have been able to identify that was offensive lineman Earl Anthony. He's likely and is expected and feared to be missing the upcoming season due to a lower body injury. Anthony's a guy that was expected to be, he was working with the first team at right tackle when I was at practice on Wednesday. He was doing that a lot during the spring as well too. So the guy that was expected to at least fight for a starting spot, if not be a starter. So you got to understand, try to figure out what that means moving forward. The Flames could move to Val Erickson, who was a second team right tackle at practice on Wednesday. Or you could move some guys around as well too, and we'll just have to wait and see what that line looks like when we're able to get back out of practice again. But that's something to keep an eye on. Another thing that I'll put on there that was on the rumor mill as well, completely changing sports, men's basketball. Incoming JUCO transfer Sean Register also has suffered a season-ending injury during the off season, and he will miss this upcoming year. So again, something else that was on the rumor mill earlier this summer. Just a taste for some of the stuff you can get there. If you like that insider information, some of the behind the scenes stuff, it's not just injury news, but those are just some of the things that have come up recently. Be sure to subscribe to Sea Red. Go to SeaRed.com and join our club. One last thing I want to touch on before we go, and that's just kind of the importance of the JMU game, the season opener. I've talked about this some in some of the articles I've written this summer for a Sea Red, and Again, that game is a non-conference game. So if you lose the game, it's not the end of the world. I mean, you could end up going 11-1 and you've accomplished everything you wanted to accomplish this season. But I do think, especially with Liberty coming off the season last year, and because it's a rivalry game and a team that made the CFP last year, a team with a lot of success, program that's had a lot of success, and like I said, it's a rival just down the street. That and like I said as well too, coming off the 4-8 season, like the Liberty fan base is kind of right. You're just feeling down, like, oh man, kind of defeated, like you're not sure what to expect about this team and this season, and should we have a high expectation? Should we not? That's where I think the JMU game can be so important. And again, if Liberty loses, which, they're underdogs by about a touchdown, so, it's kind of the expectation is that you lose that game. It doesn't end the season. I'm not saying that. But if you're able to go into Harrisonburg and pick up a win, I mean, that makes a huge statement in a number of reasons. Number one, you can start to say 2025 was an aberration. And some of the comments I had at the beginning of this video, you can kind of build credence to maybe that was true, and maybe it was just a blip on the radar. And Coach Chadwell is one of the top coaches in the country, one of the top coaches in the G6 level, and that this Liberty football program is still headed in the right direction. By getting a win like that, you can also get those in-state bragging rights. You can prove to JMU fans that we are to be respected, and we are a football brand and a football program that's not to be taken lightly. I think that's something that's kind of gone away here in the last year, 12 to 18 months, due to the performance on the field, understandably so. But it's a JMU football program and fan base that doesn't respect Liberty. And they expect that to be an easy win. Go and listen to some of their podcasts this summer, this off season, that they don't talk about the game much, or that's what they say. They expect a pretty easy win. So I think it would be a huge win if Liberty's able to get that win. You can start to build and regain some of that momentum that you had in the previous seasons, that you had coming off the 2023 Fiesta Bowl season, that you had coming off, multiple 8-win seasons in a row, multiple bowl appearances in a row, multiple bowl wins in a row, multiple Power 4 wins in a row. This is all some stuff that has kind of faded here in the last, like I said, 12 to 18 months, again, due to the performance of the team on the field. So, but if you go in and get a win week 1 at JMU as an underdog, you start to change some of that. You start to build some positive momentum going into the season. This team starts to build some confidence in themselves. This coaching staff starts to, feel that edge again. Like, hey, we got it. We're back. This program can start to feel that way. And again, you start to be able to make statements, on not just a Conference USA level or even a regional level, but even a national level, that, hey, we're back, and you better watch out for the Flames in 2026. Again, and if you lose, it's not the end of the world. Like, you can still go on and have a tremendous season and accomplish all of your goals. But I do think that game is very important, and one that you can start getting some of that positive momentum back into this program that's been lacking for the last several months and a year plus. Really a lot of the last 2 seasons, even though Liberty had a good start to the 2024 season and ended up winning 8 games that year, it was a letdown. It felt like a letdown at the end of the season. So again, just some of my thoughts. Let me know your comments, your thoughts on some of the things we talked about, the JMU game, the quarterback battle, any of the other things that we talked about. If you got any questions, let me know. I'm gonna try to get this feature going back again weekly as we're now into camp and into the sports mode. So if you got any questions you want answered in a future episode, let me know. But looking forward to talking to you all again. We back. We made it. We survived the summer. Just kidding. I love the summer and don't want the summer to end. Always disappointed when it does. But good talking to you guys again. We'll see you soon. Go Flames.